Welcome to Sergeant's Time. My name is Sergeant Apolinar and I will be your instructor for today. Today's topic will be the identification and wear of the Army uniform. Last week we covered a general overview of the Army National Guard history, and hopefully in a future episode we'll get to cover specifically the Alaska Army National Guard history. So if you haven't seen that our video that we posted last week, go ahead and look for it in the playlist under Blue Phase. Before I proceed with the presentation today, with the training today, I'd like to just share a couple things that we learned from the RSP sync. So essentially, the RSP sync, that meeting, that Teams meeting, covered a couple of things that we could do better on, not only as an individual. And then this meeting wasn't just throughout the state. This was national. There were speakers from other states, from TRADOC, from basic training, right? And I'd like to share one note that stuck out to me, and it was a note from the drill sergeants within Fort Benning and Fort Lee. So these information is coming from them, from your future trainers, from your future drill sergeants down there in the training base. And one thing that they mentioned that they would like to see more of are warriors that are prepared, and prepared in a sense of the basic soldier knowledge, right? Soldier's creed, the proper and wear of the uniform, DNC, that kind of stuff. And it kind of just a little it helps the sergeant's time, right? That's why we're doing this sergeant's time. That's why we started this video series of covering topics that are not only are just good to know, but they will actually help you in your transition from going from the RSP, from the Recruit Sustain program, to your basic training, your initial active duty training location, wherever that location might be. So let's get right on it. Let's not waste any time, and let's go. So, like I said, the topic that we're going to go over today is the identification and wear of the Army uniform. What is a uniform, right? It is the uniform provides a means by which units might readily be identified in action or on the march, right? So it gives a certain unit a specific distinction between other units. For example, a good example would be the uniform between other armed services. For example, the Army's uniform is different from the Marines, right? So when you see a soldier, you know you should be looking like an ACUs, and this is the same for the Air Force, because we have the same uniform, the OCP, the operational camouflage pattern. That's the pattern that we follow, right? But the Marines, theirs are different, right? So that's a good example of that. It is a means by which rank could be distinguished, right? So in a uniform, you have your ranks that you can distinguish between an enlisted personnel, a warrant officer, and a commissioned officer. Number 3, to foster pride of service and esprit de corps, the uniform in America is based on European traditions. Some of the history behind it is as follows. The idea of camouflage uniforms began in the American Revolutionary War with homespun brown deerskins. The Continental soldiers wore uniforms patterned after the British. Not until World War I did the U.S. Army begin to wear uniforms designed to blend with the terrain and vegetation. So there is a big gap between the American Revolutionary War and World War I, where in World War I, that's when we realized, we should probably design a uniform that would blend in with the operational environment that we're in, right? Until World War I, the quote dress up uniform and the work uniform were one and the same. This created obvious problems in camouflage, suitability in the battlefield, and ease of cleaning, right? So before, what it's saying is, before World War I, all the uniforms were the same. You had one dress uniform and you had one work uniform. But now, since World War I, we have a variations of uniform that is suited for different occasions, right? Number 6, Well, let me harp on one more thing. Right, the reasoning behind it is obviously you wouldn't wear a dress uniform, your army service uniform to the battlefield, right? You might not be able to conduct your battle drills. Maybe you're a badass, but it would probably prohibit you from wearing your PPEs, your personally protective equipment, right? So that's kind of, and you can see where the transition was happening, and and that's why there is a difference between your dress uniform and your work uniform. Today, the dress uniforms preserve the traditional values of the past by retaining some of the colors and ornamentation of former times. However, the work uniform is designed for use on the battlefield and makes no effort to be distinctive except in insignia. Occasions of wear. So we're going to talk about the Army combat uniform, right? Occasions of wear. When do we use this uniform? It's an all-purpose wear. Some versions of the combat uniform are not intended for wear as an all-purpose uniform. The combat uniform is designed to be worn under body armor. Approved to wear. The combat uniform is prescribed for year-round wear for all soldiers unless directed by the commander. Soldiers may wear the combat uniform off post unless prohibited by the commander, right? So it's gonna, here in the next block we're gonna cover the restrictions of wear. So when can you use the occasions? What occasions can you use the Army combat uniform? Field training is one, right? In basic combat training in AIT, this is the uniform that you will be wearing majority of the time, and along with your Army physical fitness uniform, your APFU. So you're gonna get comfortable in wearing one of these, right? And we're gonna cover the components of it, so on and so forth. Um, yeah. So those are, and what else? What other times would you be able, for recruiters, right? You maybe and this is an RSP specific function. Maybe you, in an event where you are helping your recruiter, you're able to wear that uniform properly in an event so you can garner leads for your recruiter and help the mission, right? Restrictions on wear. When can you not wear this uniform? Soldiers may not wear the combat uniform for commercial travel unless authorized in accordance with paragraph 3-7 Bravo through Charlie of AR 670-1. And I just want to AR 670-1 is the regulation that covers the proper wear of the uniform. So if you have any questions on how to wear a uniform, what belongs in the uniform, and what you can and can't, what do you call this? Carry while in the uniform, AR 670-1 is a good source, is a good resource for you to look that up. Personnel may not wear the combat uniform in off-post establishments that primarily sell alcohol for consumption on the premises. If the establishments sell alcohol and food for consumption on the premises, soldiers may not wear the combat uniform if their activities in the establishment center on the drinking of alcohol. So obviously, if you are under 21, do not drink. You are legally not allowed to drink. If you are over the age of the age limit of drinking, if you're 21 or over, and you decide to wear your uniform, please note that there are certain parameters that you can and can't do while in the uniform. Essentially, the rule of thumb is if you are bringing discredit to the uniform and the organization, you probably wouldn't want to do that, right? So, and in this case, it's talking about specifically the consumption of alcohol. And why is this, right? What would be some consequences of a soldier, a warrior, drinking in an establishment while in uniform? Can you imagine the repercussions, the media coverage that you would get, and the dishonor that you would provide, that you would bring to the unit, right? So that's a big no-no. Stop doing that. Hopefully nobody's doing it, right? But yeah, so those are, AR 670-1 is a good resource for everything that we're talking about today. All right, we're talking about headgear, right? So in this slide, you'll see three types of headgear, right? So you have the beret, the patrol cap, and the fleece cap. So we're going to talk about the patrol cap. How do you wear? And later in the presentations, later in the presentation, it'll show you a good picture, a good example of how to properly wear one. Um, but just reading through this patrol cap, it has to be straight on the head so that the cap band creates a straight line around the head, parallel to the ground. The cap will fit snugly and comfortably around the largest part of the head without bulging or distortion from the intended shape of the headgear and without excessive gaps. No rolling of, blocking, or alterations to the cap are authorized. The cap is worn so that no hair is visible on the forehead beneath the cap. The name tape will be worn centered on the hook and loop pads on the back of the patrol cap. Soldiers may sew on the name tape and or the grade insignia as an option. Hook and loop fasteners for the name tape may be left on or removed when sewing it on the patrol cap. If soldiers choose to sew on the name tape or grade insignia, it will be at their own expense. So you again, it will show an example later, but as you can see on the patrol cap, um, give me 1 second. You see in the patrol cap here, um, it's this one is sewn on, but the rank and the name tape are sewn on. So if one is sewn on, everything has to be sewn on. If this is a pin on, this has to be the Velcro. Um, and it was mentioned earlier that the that the that when the cap is worn, when the patrol cap is worn, no hair is visible on the forehead. The rule of thumb here really is, don't treat it as a baseball cap, right? That's the other thing. So no tilting, no wearing it sideways, backwards, so on and so forth. Um, Moving on to the beret. The beret is worn so that the headband is straight across the forehead, 1 inch above the eyebrows. The flash, which is this, is positioned over the left eye. The excess materials is draped over the right ear, extending to at least the top of the ear and no lower than the middle of the ear. Personnel will cut off the ends of the adjusting ribbon and secure the ribbon knot inside the edge binding at the back of the beret. When worn properly, the beret is formed to the shape of the head. Therefore, soldiers may not wear hairstyles that cause distortion of the intended shape of the beret. The beret is equipped with a stiffener on the left front for attaching organizational flashes and insignia. And then the fleece cap, it will. Okay, so the fleece cap. The thing with the fleece cap is you have to wear it to where it doesn't cover your eyebrows, and you're authorized by the regulation to roll it, to fold it once, but not roll it. So, and it will be worn snugly, and yeah. So these are the components uh, of the ACU, the Army Combat Uniform. So you have the coat, the ACU top, and a little bit of description. Whenever you're wearing this, it needs to be a loose fitting, right? It can't be so tight that you can't move, or it can't be so loose. You have to find the balance, just like with everything. Yeah, it can't be too big on you, so you can properly wear your PPE and conduct normal movements to where your uniform is not interfering with it. Alterations to make the uniform fitting are not authorized, so that means you can't make it, like I said, it can't be too tight. You get different sizes such as small regular, small long, small short, and here in the RSP one, if it's your first drill during red phase, you'll be able to we'll be able to purchase that uniform for you, and wear it during training, and yeah. The coat is normally worn outside the trousers, and the trousers are worn with a belt. The coat may also be worn inside the trouser when directed by the commander. So what that is saying is normally you wear the coat outside of the trousers, not tucked in. But there are circumstances where you are able to wear your coat tucked in unless it's with the direction of the commander. A couple of examples of this would be if you're wearing a kit. I like to, um, when I'm wearing my kit, my plate carrier, I like to tuck my shirt in so it doesn't interfere with it doesn't interfere with what I'm trying to do. It doesn't raise all the way up because you'd have those instances, right? Um, Sleeves worn down at all times, not rolled or cuffed. Obviously, this is there. Scratch that on my notes. Now you're able to wear it. There is, um, especially in basic training, it's authorized now to roll or cuff your sleeves, and then that's going to be at the direction of your drill sergeants, right? And that's going to cover instances such as heat category, whatever the heat category is for that place at that moment. There are um, SOPs that are in place to cover that. Coat will not extend below the top of the cargo pocket of the trousers, and it will not be higher than the bottom of the opening of the side pocket on the trousers. Like I said, you'll see an example in the following slides. Trousers. So you have the ACU bottom, right? So trousers. Again, it's loose fitting, not too tight, not too light, not too tight, not too loose, right? It's just find that balance and yeah. Alterations, just like the top, you cannot make any alterations to fit your uniform more properly. The trousers will be worn tucked into the top of the boots or blouse using the drawstrings at the bottom of the trousers or commercial blousing devices. When bloused, the trousers should not extend below the third eyelet from the top of the boot. So this is what we're talking about earlier. If you see my cursor, um, obviously you have the undershirt, right? You have your belt, you have your boots bloused, and then here you see the PC. It's directly the side is parallel to the marching surface. It's not worn like a baseball cap, right? And the top doesn't go all the way down to the cargo pocket, and yeah, so this is a good example of how to properly wear the Army combat uniform or the ACUs. Again, I guess let me harp on that a little bit more. So the ACUs is the proper term. OCP, the operational camouflage pattern, is the pattern, but ACU is what the uniform is called. Before the ACUs, before the OCP pattern, it was the UCP, the digital camo, and that was considered the ACUs, right? But obviously we've transitioned to now to this pattern of the OCP. So what does the ACU comprise of? Obviously, you have the coat, the trousers, the undershirt, which is tan, undergarments, belt, socks, boots, and headgear, right? So that's what you would wear when you're wearing the ACUs. And other accessories that you can have with you would be your gloves, your cold weather jacket, your Equix, right? Trousers, wet weather camouflage, right? So those are the other gear that you could wear with it. And handbags for female. Obviously, in basic training, more than likely you will not have handbags, right? Because everybody has to look dress. And one of the things that you learn is the Army will provide you with all the gear that you need. And I learned that from a squad leader, from a previous squad leader of mine, that the Army will provide you everything that they want you to use, right? So I say that because CIF, that's what you're the clothing facility. That's where you'll get all your gear issued out to you, and take care of it, right? So you'll get issued your boots, your ACUs, your APFUs. And while we're on this topic of CIF, that's the time. It's not a take your time event, but it is a move with a purpose event. But find the balance to where you are properly fitting your boots, specifically your boots. I say that again, your boots. Those are the same boots that you'll wear for throughout your duration in basic training. And if they are improperly fitted, well, guess what? You're going to be the one that's going to suffer from that, right? If for some reason you do get improperly fitting boots, you should bring that to your drill sergeants in an appropriate time, right? Probably don't bring it up in the middle of the formation, right? It would be a good talking point maybe when there's a time of the day where the drill sergeant's just asking questions. That would probably be the time to bring it up, but just don't bring it up all randomly in the middle of a formation, right? So and that's a common courtesy, right? Give your drill sergeants the courtesy of fixing the issue that at his or her level, right? Just don't blast it out to everyone. It's a common courtesy. And I'm sure your drill sergeants would appreciate that very much. I know I would, right? So yeah, let's move on. Okay, we're moving on to the physical fitness uniform, the Army Physical Fitness Uniform, your PFU. This is somewhat similar to the RSP PTs that we give you. Obviously, the RSP PTs, you'll cover this in Blueface, but I'd hate to miss an opportunity to say that whatever uniform that you get at the RSP, you will not bring that with you, because you will get your gear issued to you at your basic training location, at your reception location. So moving on with the physical fitness uniform, the components of the physical fitness uniform: you have the jacket, you have the pants, you have the trunks, the shorts, the t-shirt, short sleeve and long sleeve, your footwear, right, and socks. So footwear or socks. A common thing that we see here at drill is warriors. Even though we've told you so many times that you wear unauthorized socks. For example, ankle socks are unauthorized. Your socks has to cover your ankle bone, right, and it can be white or black. And so yeah, so no ankle socks, no show socks. It has to cover the entirety of your ankle bone. And then you have here again your fleece cap. So other accessories would be your gloves, fleece cap, black or coyote brown, right? So the coyote brown, that's also a new thing that we're transitioning into. Before it was just the black fleece cap, right? The black watch cap. But now we're transitioning into coyote. And me personally, I like the black one, right? But yeah, so moving on with this presentation. Okay, so we are covering now the dress uniforms, right? Well, before we do that, let me go back. So obviously, it says it in the name itself, the physical fitness uniform. So this physical fitness uniform, most likely, that's what you will wear in the majority of the time that you are conducting PT. There are times where you would conduct PT with ACUs, right? Especially if it's a battle focused PT. When I say battle focused, you're talking about tactical marches, right? Road marches that are more tactically oriented, right? The other thing too would be most likely in the initial part of your reception and maybe even your basic training, the initial part of it, you are most likely wearing your PT uniform, because they want to provide you a time to get acclimated. Because think about it. Obviously, you would be coming from Alaska, and it's right now winter time it's crazy, right? Negative 1 week, and then the following week it's like 30s, 40s, right? So it gives you that time to acclimate to the weather in Fort Jackson, whatever the case may be. I say Fort Jackson because that's where I went to recently for the United States Army Drill Sergeant Academy, where it mimics the United States Army Drill Sergeant Academy, mimics what our trainees would go through, right? When my stay in Fort Benning, Georgia, when I was a private, I remember it was being really hot, but I went in a time frame where I experienced, it was February time frame, so it's from February to May, so I got both ends of kind of the kind of going into springtime and then going into summer. Thank God that I wasn't there for the summer because it was really hot. But then when I went to Fort Jackson, it was complete opposite. I went in the hottest part of the year, and so that's what we did, right? So do the drill sergeants, the leaders that within your time in basic training and in future, always have your best interests at hand, right? Maybe you might not like it, but there might be some things that you might not like about what we're doing to keep you safe, but we do have a good leader would have we would have your best interest at heart, at the top of our minds, right? So, all right, moving on to the dress uniform. So the dress uniform, the Army Green Service uniform, we're transitioning now to, before it was the dress blues, but now we're transitioning into the Army Green Service uniform. It'll show you here in a bit of what that looks like. But this is what you should be issued when you when you go through basic combat training. So it has occasions of wear for the Army Green Service uniform, for the formal, where you have your class A's, right? So that's with the coat, the slacks, the shirt, the necktie, right? So that's when you would wear it. But then you also have the class B's, where you would only wear the short sleeve or the long sleeve and the slacks, right? So I'm going through this so I can show you what it looks like. This is not the cap that you will be issued. I don't have a picture in the presentation, but I can surely post one on Facebook. But this is what the AGSUs, the Army Green Service uniforms, look like now, and this is what you should be issued when you attend basic training. And it commonly referred as to the pinks and greens. As you can see, this kind of has a little bit of a pinkish shade to it, but that's what it looks like. And I love this uniform. I think it looks slick. It looks it gives the honor to the World War II uniform, right? Because that's where the pattern came from, is during the World War II era. So I am a big proponent of this uniform. So big thumbs up. So moving on here. So what this clothing allowance? So every year, so in active duty, you do get clothing allowance. And that's specifically to give you an allowance to buy uniforms, right? There is also throughout your career, like I want to say, I'd have to look under regulation, but the first 6 months while in basic training, you will, what I'm trying to say is, if you ruin your uniform, right? Let's say there's a big hole in your uniform, and it's caused by training, right? You will have an opportunity for a DX, a direct exchange. So I highly encourage you, similar with the boot situation, approach it at an appropriate time, ask at an appropriate time, and to bring up, it's like, hey, drill sergeant, my uniform is, there's a big hole in it, it's unusable anymore, right? So you would have that opportunity in basic training for that, called the direct exchange. Care and maintenance of the Army uniforms, right? So with the I don't know what happened here. Hold on, it's going crazy on me. So for the Army green service uniform, recommended to clean it, right? For the care and maintenance of this uniform, it is recommended that you dry clean the jacket, the trousers, and the slacks, right? Um, Sleeves and lapels will be rolled pressed without creasing. Trousers or slacks will be creased. Skirts will not. Sleeves of shirts, blouses will be creased. Permanent press finish may require some pressing to maintain a neat military appearance. However, before pressing, soldiers should read and comply with care instructions attached to the uniform items. Right. So, really, for the rule of thumb here is if you are you should your uniform should always be ready to go. Right. It should never be wrinkled whenever you wear it. Right. So, whenever you're taking care of your dress uniform, your AGSU, I always take off my pins, right? Everything, I take it out all the way to where everything that's left on it would be the the patches that are sewn on, right? So that's one, and then I bring it to the dry cleaners on post, and obviously once upon receipt, then I'll work my way on putting the ribbons, the name, not the name tape, the badges, so on and so forth. Again, and that's one of the classes that you would receive during basic training, and maybe we can go over it here with it too. But yeah, so um, that's for the AGSU, the Army Green Service uniform. For the Army Combat uniform, please do not starch the combat uniform under any circumstances. Using starch, sizing, and any process that involves dry cleaning or steam press will adversely affect the treatment's durability of the uniform, and is not authorized. Right. So, any there are some chemical. There are some not chemicals, but there are some what do you call this, treatments that the uniform go through to make it to where it's combat ready, right? So that's why you shouldn't starch it, sizing, and again any process that involves dry cleaning, right? Wash the combat uniform in cold water and mild detergent containing no optical brighteners or bleach. Tumble dry the combat uniform at low heat, not to exceed 130 degrees Fahrenheit. Remove immediately from the dryer and fold flat or place on rust-proof hanger to ensure heat from the dryer does not set wrinkles. To drip dry, remove from the washer and place on rust-proof hanger. Do not wring or twist. So, let me tell you what I do. So at home, whenever it's laundry day, right? I turn the uniform, I zip it up, turn it inside out, both the pants and the the top and the bottom. The reason for it would be for me is the Velcro, right? I don't want this Velcro being connecting with other Velcros within the uniform, right? The other thing that I'd like to say is I sew all of my patches. So I think it looks slick, it looks better, right? And now you never have to remove, and then when it fades, it all fades at the same time, right? So that's the other thing is the uniform. I mark the uniform on the tag here of, let's say, for each pair, right? So this is my one pair, and they get worn at the same time, they get washed at the same time, and I do that for all my uniforms, right? So I do one, two, three, so on and so forth, right? Or letters A, B, B, so you know which one goes with one another, because the last not the one thing that you want to avoid is, let's say your uniform didn't fade at the same time, right? And now you have mix matching faded uniforms, and it just looks weird, right? And same thing for the undershirt, right? I hate the collar, the bacon effect on the collar, right? So when it's starting to do that bacon effect, maybe it's time for you to go to the clothing and sales and buy yourself a new shirt, right? Um, nothing doesn't say anything against in the regulation about that, but it just doesn't look professional, right? So that's my 2 cents on the shirt specifically. And that actually concludes this presentation of the proper wear of the uniform, right? So next week we're going to cover a different topic. Don't know what that is yet, but we'll go over it next week. We're about 35 minutes. I like to keep it between under 30 minutes, no more than 40 minutes for sure. So we're kind of in that sweet time frame right now. But if you please do me a favor, like this, share it with the other members of the RSP, with your peers, right, with your battle buddies. And if you have any questions at any time, don't hesitate to reach out to us either through social media, call me, right? In the newsletter, my number is there. And if anything comes up, always make sure that you are contacting your first line leader, your recruiter, right? So anything, if for some reason you can't get a hold of them, again, you have our number here at the RSP. At the end of the day, we just want the information and for us to take care of each other, right? So yeah, that concludes this presentation of the proper wear of the uniform. We're gonna sign out at this point. All right, I will see you on the next video. Thanks.